Welcome to Horton Implants Oral Bites with your hosts, Kate Bootman, Will Murphy, and Carl Horton.
Punchline. Yeah, never again.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Hope you've had a really good week and you're gearing yourself up for a lovely weekend. You will see that I have the naughty boys with me again in the form of Carl Horton and Will Murphy. And I've got to say, we are absolutely thrilled and really, really happy. We have Amit Patel that's going to join us this evening. Hi, Amit. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you all doing? Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it. It's really kind.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Now we've always got to kick off with the normal. So, boys, which one am I going to hit first? Carl Horton, it's going to be you. How's your week been?
Knew you'd ask me.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's been all right. Had Evo, who we've talked about before on previous webinars, the full arch guys. So they've come over because we're in part of their referral program to a couple of practices to sort of discuss that with the teams and explain how that's going. And they were mentioning about the photogrammetry scanner they have, which I want, but can't. Yeah.
Can they lend you one? Or
I did ask. They also have some. They have some really nice models as well of the pterygoid implants and the bridges, which I also wanted, but she kept them in a locked case and counted them in and counted them out.
Tea leaf.
Yeah. They look fantastic. I mean,
how much are the scanners? What are they going for?
Well, Angela, who came down, said they were going for about 30,000, but
okay,
I've read that they are a bit more expensive than that. And the scan flags, I think the scan flags are getting towards about £100 each for each little scan flag.
You've probably got that under your pillow, if you will.
Last time I went round.
Yeah, but the accuracy is better than the intraoral scanning, they've said. So doing a full arch intraoral scan and then doing this photogrammetry scan is very different. But the patient swallowed one of their scan flags.
What?
So so she should I? Am I allowed to say this?
Did she go home with a sieve and a fork?
I'll let you know. I asked a similar question.
This is like past experience. You knew the tools well.
Yeah, it used to happen to me. I used to get patients come in with either a little filling or something like that, and they go, "Oh, I swallowed it," and then they'd hold the hand out before you could get your gloves on. You go, "Just pop it there." Yeah.
And the rest of your week?
Yeah, good. Got triple jabbed on Thursday, so feeling a little bit worse for wear today, which is why I'm not looking my wonderful self and glowing, and I might do this a couple of times. And just some nice, lovely, simple cases this week. And I know, Will, we've been talking about the full arch stuff and all that, but this week's just been single units, bridges, just all fits and some nice straightforward placements with loads of bone and not having to graft, and it's just been lovely.
I love how both Amit and Will are both going like, "Oh, you can see, totally know what you mean."
It's just nice.
Those are the best days, aren't they? When there's just so much bone, and you just do it in a very, very short space of time. And you just think, why don't I have cases like that?
They don't come along enough.
No.
The one thing that I noticed, I was talking to one of the owners about their hygienist, and the patient had complained because she hadn't spent the complete 40 minutes for their hygiene. So they'd spent sort of 30 minutes, and the patient had complained that they hadn't had the whole 30 minutes. Yeah, I never get a complaint if I'm quicker at putting an implant in than the time that it's booked. It's totally the opposite. I find that quite amuses me slightly.
I did get that as a complaint once from a really lovely patient, and he was a very smart businessman. He was retired, lots and lots of money, you know what I mean? So I did a sinus lift on him. This is maybe about 8 years ago, and sinus lift went well, and then I did the implant in a few minutes, when he came back, and he was like, "I don't see why I should be paying for this." And because I was young and stupid, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah. What do they want? Do they want you to drag it out for an hour and a half or something?
Back then, I didn't do any sort of selling stuff, and I should have said, actually pay for my experience. But and it was funny because he sort of said to me, he says, I understand the sinus lift was a lot of money because it was technically difficult. And I'm like, oh man. But, that was a learning exercise for me. So it's never happened again.
He sounds like he became an implantologist overnight. Very clever man.
And it was so funny because he would give me advice on retirement. He says, when you retire, you need to have at least £2 to £3 million retirement. I'm like, what? And then in my mind, after that, I thought, you've got tons of money, and you didn't want to pay me for my 2 implants that I played.
That's why he's got tons of money.
Yeah,
he doesn't pay.
I might have to put a few more implants in.
So, Mr. Murphy, what about you? How's your week been? Long week for you.
Long week, full 5 days. So feeling pretty exhausted. Just busy. Yeah, again, some pretty straightforward cases. Some complicated ones. Sort of finished off today with 4 implants going into somebody, and one there was a buried root right where I wanted to put my implant, so it was a bit of sort of bone management, and it was an ankylosed bit of root, so I tried making little slots down the side and moving it one way then the other, and it just snap. So in the end I took a round burr to it and just obliterated it, and then was able to get an implant in the top of it, so it all sort of worked out well in the end. So and then fitting quite a big bridge, anterior bridge, a temporary bridge, just so we could kind of see how everything was going to look prior to doing, it's one of those things where you can't just go straight to a finished bridge because there's just too many variables. From experience with this patient, every time we fitted something like a temporary denture, there's always been a cant and the midline's been wrong. So we had a bridge try in, then another try in, and then we just about got it today. I had to fiddle about with it a little bit, but we got there in the end. So it's been pretty good, really. Nothing too exhausting.
It is difficult if you think about it. There are you do all these steps. And, you do Facebook and all these things, and still there's a cant, and you're thinking, where have I made this mistake,
Yeah.
And then I end up taking, so the patient on my, and then I'm emailing it to my technicians and stuff, and then, you can see, and then they can make this, and it's just, sometimes you beat yourself up thinking, where am I making this mistakes,
Yeah. Well, we had all of that. So, and the patient's great. She's lovely. She's really nice, and really good. So the last visit, I thought what I'll do is, because it's an acrylic temporary, I just took some discs to it and some sharp burrs, and put the midline in the right place. Added a bit, took a bit away, and actually did a little video, so I get the patient to sort of smile and talk, just using the iPhone. Send that to the lab, and they find that really,
there's other
really
phones
useful.
out there as well, other than iPhone.
There are other phones, indeed. Yeah,
but
it's just I'm sponsored by Apple.
To put background music on these ones.
So you go. That's me, and I've just ordered a Trios, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. And
which one are you buying? Which one are you buying?
Just get the basic Trios, and waiting for somebody to tell me how to switch it on, and stop being an analog dinosaur, get with the kids and this newfangled digital age.
It's I'm gonna be honest, I've had a Trios for a bit, and I really struggle using it.
Yeah.
I just end up going back to doing the old traditional impression, because it's like I'm much quicker at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I had last week, 3Shape got in touch with me. I don't know why they got in touch with me, and then we had this huge Zoom meeting discussing the issues. They wanted to know about my thoughts on the system. Obviously it's a very good bit of kit, and it is the future without a doubt. But maybe it's because we as clinicians may be perfectionists, and we're not trying to cut corners and stuff. And it's like, why isn't it the same as I see on YouTube and stuff? So I because when I'm scanning, it's like I struggle to get around the posteriors because this area of, the tuberosity and all that sort of stuff. And then you're trying to scan the palate, and it's just not, and especially in the lower jaw, the saliva's everywhere. And it's just,
and if it's impressed me, I'm going to send it back.
And if there's gold crowns, it's like, it just reflects. And I'm like, I can't even scan that. And I'm like, what is wrong with it? Because it must be real. Yeah.
Oh, is that Trios? Yeah. No. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah. He's been umming and ahhing about this for
it was Amit Patel. He said it's rubbish.
Yeah. And they were really upset when I said that to them. They were like, and they said, but you've got like one of the better ones. And I'm like, yeah, maybe there's a problem with that. So what they're going to do is they're going to send me a laptop and see if it's my computer itself, or the scanner. So it was amazing, the service there, because it's been really difficult otherwise, and I've just left it to one side really. And but I do use it. I use it as copy dentures, and I use it when I'm making a temporary crown. I can scan that, so I do use it for certain stuff like that, but not for what it's really used for. And like we talk about full arch work. So for example, I might use that just to scan the conversion. So then at least the technician has that to work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's obviously not using it for what it's supposed to be used for, to be honest. But then the thing is, I think if you do go down the path of scanning, you do have to then do, some sort of guided surgery, because I have noticed when, you can adjust an impression coping, so it fits within the angulations and stuff, but you're not allowed to adjust a scan body.
No.
That is the problem. So I think the mindset for me hasn't, gone that way. I have done guided surgery. I just never enjoyed it, but probably because I've chosen the wrong cases, edentulous cases in the back, lots of missing teeth. So I haven't got enough stability. So yeah, and they're the ones I thought you should be using it on, because you're trying to avoid the nerve and stuff. But
yeah, of course. But then sometimes you're looking at a single space and you're thinking, I know I can do this in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is it, isn't it? And I think we agree with you, because Will and I have had this conversation about the guided stuff, and I've looked at it and I've dabbled with it, and just like Will said exactly then, you look at the cases and you just go, I don't need this to be guided. I can do this, by eyeball. Well, not
with my eyes shut.
The guide. Yeah. Yes. Exactly like that. Yeah. And if I get it wrong, then I'm in trouble. Even with my eyes shut. Like today. So much bone. You could have done it guided, but there's no need to do it guided. Teeth either side with your parallelism. It's going to go where you put it. And if you can't get that right,
then you shouldn't be
doing implants. Yeah.
And this is the truth. And I think the companies are pushing it. And then when I have done this, I've done this, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, using lots of different kind of software, and you'd be just doing lots of homework, looking on the computer and this, that, the other, and planning it. And I just thought, and a patient isn't going to pay me for all that extra work, not in Birmingham.
No. Yeah.
I think you got a good point there, because one of the things I invested in one, and one of the thoughts that I had was that my lab bills were going to come down because there weren't any messy study models for them to pour up, and it was just going to be printed, or even without models, because you can do them without having the model printed. Yeah, model free. And we went down the model free route briefly, and I'll say briefly, I think we did 2, and that was that. It was the end of that. And the thing that threw me with that was that when they came back, they hadn't bonded the crown onto the abutment, because they thought that was what I was going to do.
Oh, what?
So it was model free and an abutment with a crown ready for me to bond. Thankfully, I had some bond in the practice we were in, but I hated it. Absolutely hated that. So I always get the printed models. Totally agree with the issues with the scan flags as well. That you kind of sometimes you just think, oh, what. I can't adjust that aspect of it. So it can be a bit tricky.
Yeah,
it can be a bit tricky. It's a huge learning curve. I think for me, because my dentist invested in a couple of centers, and we work in one of those centers. They brought the scanner, and me and Neil Simpkin were kind of like dropped in the deep end, if you like. And it's scan, and there was a lot of support there as well for that.
Yeah.
So it was almost, you're going to do this, and it has worked, but it's a learning curve. And I think that if I was in my own practice and I had the choice between the two, I'd probably be still doing. Sorry, Will. I'm probably still doing analogs.
Oh, don't say this to Will. Will, do you want me to kick him off?
Do you know what? No, it's like Amit says, it's a learning curve, and I think that you've got to invest the time in it. And when you're struggling at the end of the day, and you've got, your appointments getting shorter and shorter, you've got a backlog of patients. Picking that scanner up when you know that you can do your impression faster, you're gonna go to the default, and that's the issue. You need the protected time.
Yeah.
But like Amit said, the return on the investment, it doesn't really come back for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just because I know I have to get with it and give it a go, and I'm looking forward to the learning curve. I'll do small doses. I'll do little bits. I'll pick my cases, start slowly.
You'll be fine.
I mean,
before throwing it out the window.
I think my mistake was, I mean, I've been wanting one for 8 years, right? Because it's like, well, this is the way forwards and stuff. And when the IDS came, it was Trios 2, and I was like, I'm going to wait because it's still too big. It was this huge cart. And then they had a laptop. I thought, I really don't want to buy that. And then the Trios 3 came out. I said, this is what I want. So I bought it, So it's like 4 years ago. And it's just an expensive, paperweight now, really. So, and it's hilarious, right? So essentially, it's so beautiful, right? But you can't take it from room to room because once you unplug it, it turns off, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I had to buy this thing for like 300 quid, a big black, it's what they use to make a computer run while the power supply runs down or something. It was like, and it runs for 10 minutes. It's massive, and I've had to zip tie it to the machine, so it's really ugly now. But at least I can get it from one room to the other when I'm scanning. But then it takes such a long time to turn on, and so this is what I criticize these guys. I told them, the problem is you got this machine, and it's really cool, and then all the updates seem to work, and then suddenly you have to update Windows because it's running Windows in the background, but you can't see it, and then it doesn't scan. So then I ring up, Straumann, and they say, well, you need to update the Windows and the graphics card, and I'm like, I can't be arsed with this. so I just said to them last week, I said, listen, I have an iPhone, it updates, it works, right? So why the hell do you not just have a dedicated system? Because now, and the guy was the one who developed it, and he was really upset with me because, but it's the best one. I'm like, well, it's not very good, really, but it was hilarious. And I was sort of saying, maybe it's me because I'm not getting used to it and I can't be bothered, and your system is that. And he goes, we'll find a solution. So,
if you speak to them again, my pet hate is dongles.
Yeah, what's all that about?
Oh,
you have to your ears, Will.
Yeah. They just drive me crazy because I'm not very good at
IT,
kind of keeping hold of. I have to. That I have to be very organized and remember where I've put something, so it all goes in its certain box or whatever. And I'll sit down at night and I'll think, oh, those scans didn't send because we didn't have an internet connection. I've got the laptop out, and I think, oh, I've got to go and to that box which is 3 feet away and get the dongle out because it won't work without the dongle.
Yeah.
And plug it in and boot it, just like I said, boot it up and said, oh, I just want to open the laptop and send it.
Exactly. And so I'll mention that actually, because the other thing that is really frustrating, and I said that to them, was during the lockdown, 45 days, if you'd scanned a thing, I couldn't find it, right?
Oh, right.
Because if you've not sent it and you're planning it, so it's got a 45-day limit where things just disappear. So people were looking for scans that they did during the 3 months lockdown. And obviously, because I didn't do that much, it didn't matter to me, but there were people out there going.
So how do you store sort of virtual study models and things like that?
So I think what you need to do is once you send it to yourself through an email, right? And then it's stored in the cloud that they have for you. So it's really, really frustrating.
Yeah, we set up our own lab So we've
that's it. There you go. That's exactly.
Yeah.
Carl's going to explain it really much better than I will. Yeah.
So we send it to it's effectively probably what you're saying, that we send it to ourselves. So we do the scan, and if it's something we're not sure about, I mean, the one thing I must say is that the patients love it. They think it's absolutely amazing when you're turning their mouth around on the computer screen. They think that's absolutely fantastic. Well, not all of them.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, oh my God. And the good thing about the Trios is it makes teeth look yellower than they really are.
Yeah.
so if you were selling whitening, it's a perfect whitening tool to.
Amit, I wanted to say to you, obviously the boys know you quite well, and we know that you're a specialist in periodontics and dental implants. And you've already mentioned that you've got a practice in Birmingham, a very nice practice, I hear. Tell everybody out there a bit more about your practice.
Okay, so what am I?
How long have you had it?
So I'm 50 next year. So I qualified at Liverpool University. When did I go to university? 92. I had to resit my A levels because I was a rubbish student. No, but
I may.
Yeah, but you know what?
I wouldn't have got in now.
No way.
No, I wouldn't have got in
There's no way I would have done it. You know, I mean, I got for my GCSEs, I got 2 B's, 5 C's, 1 E, 1 N, and N's a near miss because I never knew how to study, right? And then my A levels, I got CEN, obviously, and then I got 3 B's, and Liverpool was the only one that took me in. They sort of said to me, "So you've been rejected from everywhere else?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they said, "So do you want an offer from us?" I'm like, "Yes, please." And that was it.
Brilliant.
Everywhere else, sort of, the interviews went so bad, and it was like, "Why do you want to be a dentist?" I've been told I'm good with my hands. I don't know. So that was it, you know.
That's a forward-thinking university in my mind, though, that they, you know, that they kind of accepted you with that. It is different today, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's different.
Very different. Never get in, you know.
I had I did applied biology, HND in applied biology, because my A levels weren't great either.
Oh, right, okay.
And then halfway through that, I met Mike Millwood.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Steve Quantz. We were working in the same hospital, and Steve wanted to do medicine, and Mike was going to dentistry. It was Mike that said, "Why don't you apply? You'll be fine." So he was the one that kind of gave me the shove, and bless them, they allowed me to go and shadow the doctors, the junior doctors, and go and talk to the consultants and the dentists.
Yeah.
And I met the junior doctors because I wasn't sure whether I was going to do medicine or not. And the junior doctors were going, "Do dentistry. This is an awful job." met the consultant, and they went, "Do dentistry. I just sit behind a desk and go to meetings. This is an awful job." I met the dentist, and they just went, "I love this. Do dentistry. Don't do that stuff." And that, you know, that was it. Applied and got in.
Oh, wow.
Similar story, guys. You know, reset my A levels. I think I was probably the last one into Birmingham. You know, before they shut the door. You know, scraped in like that. And then I think once I was there, I thought, yeah, I think I probably need to knuckle down in life now and you know, and get on with it. So there you go. Here we are.
Yeah, but it is because I think what I've learned teaching students now is that they're all been prepped and primed to be, you know, the best of the best of the best of some crap like that. Do you know what I mean? And they don't understand. You know, I remember, you know, I'm sure they're going to watch this and they'll think I'm a real twat, but you know, it's happening too. But you know, and there was a student. So when I was at Liverpool, I just scraped through always because, you know, I went out and I had a good time. You know, just, you know, left the house. 5 years of just, you know, Liverpool was an amazing university in the sense that it was a proper university. You know, once the students left, the city died, and you know, we had the dental school. And then the rest of the university was next to it. And I used to just hang out at the art side, you know, because obviously, you know, it was a far more colorful environment to be in, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
So that was the best bit. So, and then, you know, if I got a C, I was happy. I did not need an A or a B. I did not care. I just wanted to pass and just walk away, right? With a degree. But then you teach at the university, and then, you know, these students are saying, "I'm disappointed in that I've got a B," and I'm like, what is that about? So and so, you know, you know, I remember when I was a student, and I always you know, the men would always subtly give the girls higher scores and this and the other, and it was always blatantly obvious. But you know, I'm always quite fair, and I never wanted to do this again. But this time, this individual, this girl, just said to me, you know, I think I'm worth more than a B, and I just looked straight at her in the eye, and I went, so do you think you're better than me? And she went back down, right? And the students around her, they just ran away because they weren't going to argue that again. And I'm thinking, what is your arrogance about? You know, you can't. You know, I've heard there are 5 dental schools in the UK that there are students that haven't taken out any teeth. You know, they've taken out teeth on hyperdonts. I mean, what the hell is that about?
Yeah. And
now you can see that there are dentists running courses on how to extract teeth, and I'll be thinking, why would I want to do a course like that? Now it makes sense because there's a serious lack of, but their confidence is just like out there. And then, if you criticize them, if you criticize them, then you're a hater. And I'm you know.
So I mean, where did you go after university? What took you through to the perio side?
Yeah, no, okay. So when I went, so the problem was when I left, I went to university, right? So, and then I was sitting in Optech in the first term, and I thought, oh my God, I can't do this because you're drilling and filling, and this is really boring. So I just thought, well, I'm a degree, I'm going to finish it because I'm having a really good time. And so I never hung out at dental school. I wasn't the most dentist of dentists, right? So I did my own thing, and then I did in year 4. We had a week in a hospital in an armpit of Liverpool, and essentially everybody gets beaten up there. And it's a place called, I'm not going to mention it, but anyway, so you get beaten up and you do fractures, and so we were doing max factor a week, and I rocked up on Monday at 7 in the morning, and they were pulling this person's neck open, and I'm like, what? And I said, are you all dentists? And they're like, yes, we are. And I'm like, can you do this? Right? They're like, yeah, we're also medics. And it was a really cool week because the problem I have is when I'm around people with enthusiasm, I just start taking that on board really. And they used to get me in to do fractures, and I used to do zygomatics and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I'm just a student. I'm doing all this stuff. It was really cool. So then I did my elective, and I thought, I really want to do Max Fax. So I did my elective, and I did Max Fax trauma in the US and stuff, which is really cool. And then I got my degree, and then I went off and got a house job. And then I did 2 years Max Fax, got my MFDS, all that sort of stuff, because I thought, right, I'm going to be doing Max Fax. But then, fortunately for me, I worked in a hospital in London, and I met the most unhappiest Max Fax consultants ever. All these registrars are sitting there in this meeting, and the consultants, and they just all hate each other. And I just thought, I don't want to be like that, right? And I worked, but the problem was I got into medical school. So I got into a 3-year medical school course at Leeds. And at that point, I just thought I could see myself becoming like these, very angry and a sad individual. And then I deferred medicine for a year. And in my VT, I did VT as well in between all of that stuff. Thought, let's make an informed decision. And I enjoyed VT because I enjoyed talking to patients. I had a laugh, all the banter and all that sort of stuff. And then we did, in the VT, I went and saw a specialist in Liverpool, an endodontist, and he was doing like 8 endos in a day. So he did an hour, and literally he was just so enthusiastic, and he just made it seem so cool and easy. And this is endo, right? And I thought, oh, you know what? I might become a specialist, right? And then he took me out for dinner with the periodontist, and the periodontist said, are you okay with the scalpel? I said, yeah, I'm all right with the scalpel. Just perio. And I went, okay, I'll do perio. And that was it. So I applied to do perio. And the interview went very, very bad. Because my CV said I should be a Max Fax surgeon, right? So this stupid piece of poo was sitting in there, and he knows who he is because we've had a serious discussion during my course about it. But essentially, he wasn't part of the. I went to Guy's, and he was the deanery person, And there's a guy called Richard Palmer, and he's an amazing individual. So he ran the course, and he let this individual ask the question. He says, "So, your CV says you should be doing medicine," and I couldn't turn around and say, "Well, actually, I've actually got a place, and I'm trying to, I'm making an informed decision." I said, "I'm making an informed decision, and I really like dentistry and all this sort of stuff." And I remembered, the stupid question he asked, right? So anyway, and then I got the place, and I got it because I was the only British candidate. Right? So there is no way on this planet right now, if I applied to do peri, I wouldn't get in because I'm not good enough, right? Because again, they've set the bar so high and all these articles, which means you're not going to be a good student, right? End of story. If you can do all this work, fine, but you may not be a good clinician. And again, people might watch this and they'll think, "Oh, Amit's being arrogant," but you can see it. You can see it. Some of the newly qualified specialists that maybe they didn't want to be specialists.
And is this the only pathway now? Can people get grandfathered anymore into?
Yeah, I think you can. Yes, I think you can, definitely, because there's it's a bit more challenging, but you can. And there's a friend of mine called Ian Dunn. He got grandfathered, I don't know, about 5-6 years ago. It still happens. It's not like they can put a stop to it. It's just a little bit more challenging. But the question is, and I've thought about this, is do you need to be a specialist, right? And I don't think you need to be a specialist. I mean, look at Carl and look at Will. Look at both of you. You've done really well, right? So when I left. Going back to this deanery individual, who then became the dean, he then had something called a record of in-training assessment, and in year 2, I had to go and have one of these done, and I'd marked this form in the way I was told to fill it in by my professor, and it's because the courses nobody really knew what they were doing, sort of stuff, and they saw it as a negative. This individual. And him and this orthodontist, who was also another dean, went for the kill. And at that point, I just ripped them both apart. And there was a huge, massive argument. And the people on the other side of behind the door were like, "What is going on?" And then I said, "When you interviewed me, you said, you should have done medicine." I said, "Actually, I'm one of the very few who did have a place in medicine and turned it down, right? And also," and then he said, "You made the right decision." I said, "Who are you to turn around and say to me that I made the right decision?" And I ripped. And now, if he sees me, he just walks the opposite direction. He is really well known. And then next day, I had to go to the prof, and I said, "Prof, I think I'm in trouble. I need to tell you something." I said, I got into medical school, but I kept it a secret, but I told him, and he's going to have a go at you today. And then he came the next day, he goes, "Don't worry." He said, "Everything's fine." He says, "What we now know is we should just tick this box, and it'll be all fine." I said, "Great." And it's because the fear is, because everybody's a consumer now, isn't it? And the fear is the deanery is worried that someone like me was going to sue them, but that's not my nature. I just wanted to get my degree and walk out,
Yeah.
But there's too many people that complain, and I think you complain about if you can't do it, then you complain about yourself. Do you know what I mean? There's that's the problem. But I think this is why universities are very fearful. But yeah, going back to when I did 13 implants in 4 years. So that ain't good, is it? So luckily, I'm quite stupid, and I realized that I wasn't good enough to do implants. Right? I was good at cleaning teeth and maybe doing a little bit of gum surgery and stuff. And then I started going to watch people who place 400 or 500 implants a year, and these are good GDPs. People like Will, who's done it from day one and stuff. And the reason why I'm saying Will, because he's obviously older than Carl.
Is it obvious?
Yeah. I think it's the glasses that give it away.
The glasses, the full head of hair. You show-offs.
Yeah, but hang on. Let me show you show-off.
I might. Do you know what? I'm going to have a.
Oh wow! Look at this. Look at that.
There you go. I haven't cut my hair.
Because he's worth it.
Yeah.
Those were the days, Will.
I know. I might still do a ponytail, mate. I've got a
Yeah,
bit of the
yeah,
back.
do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a Jedi. Yeah, like a Jedi Padawan. That's it.
Brilliant.
But,
Absolutely.
Murphy.
but what I did after that is I watched these people, and then I realized actually, they taught me GBR and all these things, and actually, my confidence increased, and I just started to realize that I can do this, and it was good. So now when people ask me, do you think I should be a specialist? I say no, right? What I say, and I remember when I was a student, I at Liverpool, there was a guy who did a Pankey course, and he was like, I don't know, he was, he back then, obviously I was in my early 20s, he was an old man, right? So I have no idea how old he was.
50.
Yeah, probably 50. Yeah, like me. Yeah. So he went to the US and did the Pankey course. And I remember in 97, he said to me in a lecture, he says, people should be, if you want to place dental implants, because it was news and I didn't know about dental implants, you need to be a periodontist. He says, that's a really good thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then that was always in the back of my mind. But back then I just thought, this guy's trying to stop me from doing what I really want to do, which is what every young student hears, when you give them advice, it's like, oh yeah, you don't want me to be what I want to be and all this stuff. It's nightmare. Because it's funny actually, because going back to university students. So I've had quite a few university students call me up in the last year, and they've qualified and they've said, I've got my degree now and I really think I haven't achieved enough in my life. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm thinking, what is it you want? I think I want to be a specialist. You've just qualified, and us three here were from a generation where we didn't come out with huge debts because we had our degrees paid for, right? We were very, very fortunate. And I'm going, so you come out with how much debt, right? And now you want to go more into debt because you think you need to be a specialist of what, and are you really going to get the return? The answer is no, right? But they don't want to hear that. And it's like, and I'm saying, why don't you just enjoy being a dentist, go and have a good time, and then make a decision in 4 or 5 years time. But it seems like there's a race, and
but do you think it's because they're not necessarily following or going straight into NHS practices, like we did at the very beginning? They want credibility to be able to maybe go into Harley Street or, being with the big boys and have the specialist badge. I don't know.
It is. I think it is because I think, look, I've worked in Harley Street and, and I was very, very fortunate because my mate owned the whole building and he's, still owns it. And our full arches back then were like 150 grand, right? So it was amazing. But the reality is I moved to Birmingham because I'm from London, right? But my girlfriend's an intensive care consultant here. And she was doing a medical degree and medical training here and stuff. And she said, why don't you come up here? So I did. And I was completely unemployed, right, in this city. And in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I could be working back there and making a good living and all this. But actually, I look back and I've made the best decision to leave that city, and there's a good chance I make more than I have done there. And my life's much, much simpler. The patients aren't, the most demanding, and and I think dentists need to look at this. When they qualify, they got to. I remember one guy when I qualified said, you need to just find one place and stay there, and you'll do well. And I never believed that. And I've been traveling around. I used to work in Belfast. I used to work in Shrewsbury and in Stafford. I used to work wherever I could, and then I gave it all up and I thought, right, I'll just stay in one place. That's when I set up this little practice in the city centre. It's only one surgery practice. And I just sat there, did nothing for a couple of years. And now, I'm like 2-3 months busy and it's been good, because I don't like traveling around, and if I forget stuff, it stresses me out. And I like just the control of everything being around me. I mean, Carl's lucky because he's got Kate, but I can't find a Kate, you know what I mean? And I know my weaknesses. Yeah. But, the thing is.
And I'm lucky if I run out of biomaterial because I can get on a little scooter.
Yes.
And whiz over to your practice to get some. And whiz back again. So if you see a dentist in scrubs kind of whizzing along on a Voy, through the
I
city
remember that.
centre. You'll know I've run out of biomaterial again.
And a nice lock of
love
hair.
it.
Nice lock. Nice.
Yeah. Amit,
He can
I
get one of
think
those helmets.
Yeah.
when did you first come to Birmingham? When was your
I
first day at Birmingham?
I moved in 2008. In 2008. Yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
In the summer of
We briefly met
we did
on your first day, I think. But I remember you taking a tour, and I think it might have been Roger Pearson or someone like that said, "This is Amit Patel. He's coming to." Were you doing Perio? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah, and
It seems like that, doesn't it?
and then I met Will, and I remember. So I met you for the first time. Well, no, I didn't meet you. I saw you because you asked a really good question. Because we were at the hotel, the Malmaison, and there was a full arch man who I think is
I was there.
Worst, yeah, it's one of the worst clinicians in the West, right? And he knows that. I know. Yeah. Essentially, and the problem was, I remember. So it's interesting because I'll be honest, right? So because my knowledge, I just qualified. I had all this
No names.
Yeah. There's no names, but. And I remember when I worked at one place years ago, like a year before, and I was at a lecture, and this individual was lecturing, and he was asked, he stated something so much with a fact, it was wrong. So I had to go up. No, I just had to keep asking, where's the evidence? And I put him on edge, and then I thought about it afterwards, and I thought, oh, that was the worst thing I could do. And I came across like I was being arrogant, but I wanted to know the answer, and I wanted him to know that he was wrong as well. So it was really bad. And I remember that. So I've never done that again, ever, because I thought that was really bad. I mean, it's happened to me, and I don't really care now. But at that lecture that day, I was standing there, and this guy was saying, if you take all the teeth out, patient has no perio. And I wanted to rip this person apart. And I sat there, and I thought, I'm not going to say anything. And luckily, Will, who was sitting like a few seats behind me, asked the question, and he did it in such a beautiful way. He goes, I've not read that before. I always thought, you can still get, and the guy then categorically said, no, it's true. And then he just sat down, and I thought that was the most professional way of doing it, because he stated what was the truth, and people in the audience knew it. And that individual is not very good.
Yeah, we can learn it. We can learn a thing or two from Will, can't we, Amit? Because
I'm
a little bit like it comes out of my mouth before the brain's got a chance to kind of convert it into something gentlemanly, like Will does. He kind of takes stock and thinks.
Probably just biting my tongue and stroking my beard at the back, going, okay.
Oh my god, because it was a full room, and I'm thinking, oh my lord. And we were all there for the meal, in any case, but it was weird.
It was a nice meal.
Nice free grub. Yeah. Always good.
Well, gentlemen, I hate to say it, but we've exceeded our.
No way.
We have fun.
We haven't even started.
I'm going to be the first person to say I want Amit Patel back on the panel.
Oh,
so
100%.
Amit, I won't put you in a position, but if you would, please.
Loads of stories to tell. Loads of stories.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, definitely. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. I'm glad you've had a good week. Will, please put your feet up. 5 days working. You need to have a rest. Amit, a massive thank you to you. A massive thank you. Honestly, it's been a pleasure to have you on the panel, and we look forward to you joining us again. Everybody out there, hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and have a fantastic weekend, and see you next week, everybody.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.